Breaking the Poverty Trap, a deep dive. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're tackling a really complex and challenging issue, poverty. And we're not just talking about a lack of money, we're going deep into why poverty is often called a trap. Imagine a trap, right? It's easy to fall into, but incredibly difficult to climb out of. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the different factors that make it so hard for people to break free from poverty's grasp. Let's get started. The education barrier, where knowledge is power, but access is limited. Education is often hailed as the key to a better life, right? But for people trapped in poverty, access to quality education is often a privilege, not a right. Schools in impoverished communities are often underfunded. They might lack basic resources, from textbooks and technology to even just enough qualified teachers. This means that students from low-income families are already starting at a disadvantage. Without a solid educational foundation, it becomes incredibly difficult to compete for well-paying jobs. This lack of educational opportunity creates a cycle that can be really hard to break. Children from impoverished backgrounds are more likely to struggle in school, less likely to graduate, and less likely to go on to college or vocational training. It's a classic example of how poverty can be a self-perpetuating cycle. Health and poverty, a vicious cycle. Education isn't the only hurdle. Imagine trying to focus on your studies when you're constantly worried about where your next meal will come from, or if you'll have a roof over your head. People living in poverty often face impossible choices between, say, putting food on the table or paying for essential medications. Limited access to healthcare creates a dangerous cycle. People living in poverty are more likely to experience chronic health conditions, and they're less likely to have health insurance or access to regular medical care. This means that even minor health issues can quickly escalate into major problems, leading to expensive medical bills and lost wages. The stress of living in poverty can take a toll on mental health, leading to difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, and an increased risk of anxiety and depression. Poverty creates health problems, and health problems make it even harder to escape poverty. Trapped in low-wage jobs, the myth of working your way up. There's this idea that if you just work hard enough, you can pull yourself out of any situation, right? But the reality is, for many people in poverty, the jobs available to them are often low-paying, unstable, and offer little chance for advancement. Think about jobs like seasonal farm work, fast food service, or temporary positions in factories. These jobs are often physically demanding, offer few benefits like health insurance or paid time off, and pay wages that barely cover basic necessities. Even if someone works multiple jobs, they might still struggle to make ends meet. The cost of housing, food, and transportation keeps rising, while wages for these types of jobs haven't kept pace. People in poverty are some of the hardest working people I know, but when the system is rigged against you, it's incredibly difficult to break free from the cycle of poverty. Chapter 4. The Network Gap. The Power of Connections. Let's talk about something that's not always discussed when we talk about poverty, social, and economic networks. Our networks are our lifelines. They can provide support, opportunity, and access to resources that we might not have on our own. People in poverty often lack access to those same networks. They might not know anyone who works in a particular field, or they might not have the resources to attend industry events where they could make those connections. Networks can also provide access to mentors, financial advice, and even just emotional support during tough times. Bridging the network gap is crucial for breaking the cycle of poverty. Chapter 5. The Debt Trap. When emergencies become financial crises. We've all had unexpected expenses pop up, right? The car breaks down, the washing machine floods, or maybe there's a medical emergency. For people living in poverty, even a small financial setback can quickly spiral into a major crisis. They might not have savings to fall back on, and access to traditional banking services can be limited. This often forces them to turn to alternative financial services, like payday lenders or title loan companies. These services often come with extremely high interest rates and fees that can trap people in a cycle of debt. Imagine taking out a small loan to cover a car repair, only to find yourself paying back double or even triple the original amount in interest and fees. Breaking the cycle of poverty means addressing these predatory practices. We need to create pathways for affordable financial services that empower, not exploit, vulnerable communities. Chapter 6. The Weight of Poverty. The Psychological Impact. We can't ignore the psychological impact of living with constant financial stress and uncertainty. Imagine waking up every day feeling overwhelmed by bills, worried about putting food on the table, and carrying the weight of financial insecurity on your shoulders. This constant stress can take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being. Studies have shown that people living in poverty experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. The constant struggle for survival can lead to feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. Addressing the psychological impact of poverty is just as important as addressing the economic factors. Chapter 7. Unstable Ground. Environmental and Social Factors. Imagine living in a neighborhood with high crime rates, limited access to fresh food and green spaces, and few opportunities for recreation or community engagement. These factors create an environment where it's incredibly difficult to thrive. Children growing up in these communities might attend under-resourced schools, lack access to safe places to play, and witness violence or crime, which can have a lasting impact on their development and well-being. Think about the impact of climate change, which disproportionately affects low-income communities. Natural disasters, extreme weather events, and environmental degradation can displace families, destroy homes and businesses, and exacerbate existing inequalities. Creating a more just and equitable society means addressing these environmental and social factors. It means investing in under-resourced communities and ensuring that everyone has access to a safe, healthy, and thriving environment. Generational poverty is about more than just a lack of money. It's about a lack of inherited resources, opportunities, and social capital that are passed down from one generation to the next. If your parents struggled financially, they might not have been able to save for your education, help you buy a home, or even just offer financial support during tough times. This means you're starting your adult life at a significant disadvantage compared to someone whose parents had the means to invest in their future. Generational poverty can also mean inheriting a lack of access to quality education, healthcare, and even social networks. It can mean growing up surrounded by limited opportunities and a sense that your future is predetermined by your circumstances. Breaking the cycle of generational poverty requires systemic change. It means creating a more equitable society where everyone, regardless of their background, has a fair shot at success. We've talked about a lot of factors that contribute to the poverty trap, but it's important to remember that poverty doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not just about individual choices or circumstances. It's about a system that often perpetuates and even exacerbates inequality. Think about things like discrimination based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. These forms of discrimination create barriers to education, employment, housing, and even access to basic services. Economic inequality means that those at the top have more resources, more influence, and more opportunities, while those at the bottom struggle to make ends meet. This inequality is often reinforced by policies and systems that favor the wealthy and powerful. Breaking the cycle of poverty requires us to acknowledge and address these systemic barriers. One of the most powerful tools we can give people to help them break free from poverty is financial literacy. Financial literacy is about understanding how money works, how to make informed financial decisions, and how to build a secure financial future for yourself and your family. Unfortunately, financial literacy is often not taught in schools, and many people grow up without a basic understanding of personal finance. This can make them vulnerable to predatory lending practices, bad financial decisions, and a cycle of debt that can be difficult to break. But here's the good news. Financial literacy can be learned. There are tons of resources available online, in libraries, and through community organizations. Teaching financial literacy is an investment in the future. That was a lot to take in, right? We covered some really complex issues, but I hope you walked away with a deeper understanding of what it really means to be trapped in poverty. It's not just about a lack of money, it's about a lack of access, opportunity, and often even hope. But here's the thing. Poverty is not inevitable. It's a solvable problem. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button and share it with your friends. Let's keep the conversation going and work together to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.